Despite the Great One's seemingly sudden appearance, the Azure Dragon clan was not surprised at all. In fact, they'd anticipated his appearance when they learned that it was Dragon Goddess Yayo who had stopped the Mystic Sea Dragon clan's invasion from Yuan. The Great One narrowed his golden eyes, his naturally arrogant gaze sweeping over the Azure Dragon clan like he had absolute authority over them.
So, you've anticipated my arrival, have you?
He said, his voice calm, yet imposing.
Then you must also know why I'm here. Let's not waste time and tell me what I want to know. Is it true that Dragon Goddess Yayo appeared here recently? Yes, that is correct.
Zhao Zhenhai didn't dare to lie before the Great One, since he could see through everything.
Tell me everything, and do it from the very beginning. If you dare try to mislead me or leave even the slightest details out, I'll completely wipe your bloodline from existence. Do I make myself clear?
The Great One's aura surged in a threatening manner. Zhao Zhenhai and the others trembled beneath the weight of the Great One's overwhelming presence. Knowing full well that this being did not bluff or tolerate deceit, Zhenhai quickly recalled everything. From the moment their family had been poisoned by the Mystic Sea Dragon clan, to their fateful encounter with Yuan, and ultimately, the appearance of Dragon Goddess Yayo herself, which ended up driving the Mystic Sea Dragon clan away.
Yuan.
The Great One narrowed his eyes after hearing this familiar name. However, no matter how vast his experience or knowledge, there was simply no way he could have linked Yuan's existence to the immortal monarch, even with all the information he'd been given. Even with the information that Yuan possessed the immortal monarch's blood, he assumed it had been bestowed upon him by Dragon Goddess Yayo. I need more information. The Great One set his sights on the Holy Dragon clan next. Before leaving the Azure Dragon clan, the Great One said,
Since you've experienced Dragon Goddess Yayo's prowess firsthand, I want you to do some quick comparison.
Without warning, he suddenly unleashed a surge of his aura, so immense that it didn't just engulf the Azure Dragon clan's territory, but swept across the entire sea of dragons like a tidal wave. The sudden eruption of aura startled every living entity within the sea, sending beasts and cultivators alike fleeing from his direction as if their very lives depended on it. Within the Azure Dragon clan, the pressure was unbearable and so overwhelming that even the strongest among them coughed up mouthfuls of blood. Not even a God Ascension Realm cultivator like Zhao Zhenhai was spared. Fortunately, the Great One quickly retracted his aura a second later, or everyone around him would have died from the pressure alone.
If you were to compare my aura to that of Dragon Goddess Yayo,
the Great One asked, his voice devoid of guilt or apology.
How did I measure up? Would you say I'm stronger?
After taking a moment to catch his breath, Zhao Zhenhai responded.
Your aura was definitely stronger than what I felt from Dragon Goddess Yayo.
A satisfied smile tugged at the corners of the Great One's handsome face. Without another word, he turned and soared away, his figure cutting through the water like it didn't exist as he headed straight toward the Holy Dragon clan. A heavy silence lingered over the Azure Dragon clan and the underwater city, persisting long after the Great One had departed. Eventually, Zhao Zhenhai let out a deep, weary sigh.
I have the feeling that even if we had succeeded in claiming the Dragon Spiral Mountain, the Great One still wouldn't have offered us his help.
The others silently nodded, agreeing with him. A few days later, the Great One arrogantly announced his arrival by engulfing the entire Dragon Spiral Mountain in his overwhelming presence, just as he did to the Azure Dragon clan. Immediately, the Holy Dragon Emperor approached him and greeted.
The Holy Dragon clan greets the Great One.
The Great One narrowed his eyes and remarked,
Just like the Azure Dragon clan, you anticipated my appearance. Did Dragon Goddess Yayo warn you that I'd show up? No, but knowing your history with her, anyone would make this assumption.
He said.
Then you must also know why I am here. Yes. It's true that Dragon Goddess Yayo has returned.
The Holy Dragon Emperor admitted. Based on the Great One's earlier comment, the Holy Dragon Emperor knew that he had visited the Azure Dragon clan prior to showing up at the Holy Dragon clan, so there was no reason to hide it, and it'd only enrage him.
Tell me everything you know,
said the Great One, his overbearing tone leaving no room for discussion. However, the Holy Dragon Emperor shook his head and said,
Unfortunately, that is not possible.
The Great One narrowed his eyes ever so slightly, fixing the Holy Dragon Emperor with a gaze that radiated silent menace.
Since I am in a good mood, I'll pretend I didn't hear your last sentence. You better choose your next words wisely, or I might sink the Dragon Spiral Mountain by accident,
said the Great One as his aura began to surge violently.
Who knows? It might even summon Dragon Goddess Yayo once she learns of it. Why are you still chasing after Dragon Goddess Yayo? I heard she wants nothing to do with you. Aren't you afraid of incurring her wrath? I might have feared her in the past, but things are different now. I don't know where she has been this entire time, but I am quite certain that I have surpassed her during her absence. Once I find her, I am going to battle and defeat her.
In the past, when the Great One pursued Dragon Goddess Yayo, she would always say that she'd only accept someone stronger than herself, hence why he'd started collecting treasures and using them to strengthen himself. 2009, The Great One's Appearance, 3. The Holy Dragon Emperor could only sigh inwardly after hearing the Great One's declaration that he'd defeat Dragon Goddess Yayo. While it was true that Dragon Goddess Yayo may not have been improving her strength since her disappearance, because she'd lost her body, and her soul had split into several parts, nobody could say for certain that the Great One had surpassed her, but it was definitely a possibility.
Once I defeat her, I'll finally obtain the one thing I've yearned but failed to claim in this life.
The Great One declared, his eyes burning with fervent determination. The Holy Dragon Emperor narrowed his eyes at the Great One's words, which carried an unsettling undertone, as if he saw Dragon Goddess Yayo not as a person, but as something to be claimed.
In any case, I cannot help you. They didn't mention where they'd go after leaving the Dragon Spiral Mountain.
The smile on the Great One's face slowly disappeared, and he responded,
Maybe, but I won't know for sure until I force it out of you. How many do I have to kill to make you talk? Half.
The Holy Dragon Emperor sneered in disdain.
You may have gotten stronger over the years, but your character has fallen quite lowly, Great One. Even if you kill everyone, my answer will remain the same. I don't know where Dragon Goddess Yayo went.
The Great One said nothing in return, but his aura surged violently, speaking louder than any words ever could. The Holy Dragon Emperor wasted no time, instantly transforming into his dragon form. Though he knew full well that the Great One stood as an even greater threat than the Celestial Emperor had been, he refused to retreat. Defeat was likely, but cowering was never an option.
It's been a while since a dragon has dared to defy me, so I'll enjoy this for a while.
Moments later, the Great One and the Holy Dragon Emperor collided in a thunderous clash, their fierce exchanges unleashing shockwaves in every direction, each impact chipping away at the Dragon Spiral Mountain, piece by piece.
Heavens! The Great One is attacking us. What should we do?
The Holy Dragon clan was thrown into momentary panic, but their hesitation didn't last. Just like when the Celestial Emperor attacked, they surged forward to assist him, even if their efforts barely made a dent in the overwhelming power of the Great One. Though the Great One's individual power surpassed even that of the Celestial Emperor, the Holy Dragon clan managed to hold out against him far longer than expected. Of course, this endurance was only possible because the Great One was clearly holding back. If the Great One had gone all out from the beginning, the Holy Dragon clan would have perished almost instantly. Eventually, the Great One hovered alone above the Dragon Spiral Mountain, his presence dominating the skies. Below him, the Holy Dragon Emperor and the rest of the clan lay scattered across the battered landscape, defeated and motionless, unable to lift even a finger after their overwhelming defeat. Their fight had attracted many spectators again, though not as many as when the Celestial Emperor attacked.
What the hell? Isn't that the Great One? Why is he attacking the Holy Dragon clan, too? I don't know what the Holy Dragon clan did, but to offend both the Celestial Emperor and the Great One, they're fated to be erased from existence soon. And since it's the Great One, the other Royal Dragon clans wouldn't be able to do anything about it.
Sometime later, the Great One's voice echoed across the battered peaks, loud and clear, rippling through the mountain like thunder.
Though I do not wish to do this because of my respect for Dragon Goddess Yayo, your defiance cannot go unpunished. As retribution, I shall destroy the final Dragon Spiral Mountain in the 9 heavens.
The Great One raised a single finger, and in an instant, an overwhelming aura surged from his body. At the tip of his finger, a small orb of condensed energy began to form, glowing intensely. It rapidly expanded, growing larger and brighter until it blazed in the sky like a miniature sun, radiating power that shook the heavens. Moments later, the Great One gave a casual flick of his finger, and the blazing miniature sun shot through the air toward the mountain. As it descended, the heat radiating from it was so intense that it caused the surrounding sea to boil violently, sending waves of steam rising into the heavens. The Holy Dragon clan could do nothing but watch in helpless silence as the blazing sun descended upon them. One by one, they began to close their eyes, not out of fear, but in solemn acceptance of the death they could no longer escape. However, amid the chaos and impending doom, a lone figure silently appeared between the descending sun and the Dragon Spiral Mountain like a ghost. He was small in stature, appearing no older than a young teenager, yet his eyes gleamed with ancient knowledge and unfathomable experience. Strangely, he emitted no presence whatsoever, and his body was semi-transparent, as if he didn't exist within the fabric of reality itself. Though the Holy Dragon clan failed to notice him because of his lack of presence, the Great One did not. The moment his eyes fell upon the small figure, his body tensed, and a flicker of something rare flashed in his eyes. Hesitation. Without a word, he clenched his fists, and in an instant, the blazing sun above dissipated, abruptly canceling his attack.
What is the meaning of this?
The Great One spoke with a frown on his face.
It'd be problematic if you were to destroy the Dragon Spiral Mountain,
said the young teenager.
I wasn't talking about the Dragon Spiral Mountain. Why are you here? Isn't it obvious? I'm here to stop you. With an avatar that doesn't even have an ounce of power?
The Great One sneered.
Are you looking down on me? You're right. I don't have any power in this state, so I cannot physically stop your actions. However, I can offer you a word of advice. If you were to destroy the Dragon Spiral Mountain, Senior Sister Yeo will not forgive you,
said the young teenager.
You speak as if it's a certainty. Both you and Yeo vanished without a trace after that bastard's era came to an end, only to reappear now, at the exact same time.
The Great One's eyes narrowed, voice edged with suspicion and frustration.
What is the meaning of this? Dragon Ancestor?
The Great One's last words shocked all of the spectators. Nobody there could have anticipated the reappearance of the Dragon Ancestor.
That teenager is the Dragon Ancestor? The third dragon of origin? I thought he died long ago. No, he simply disappeared, just like Dragon Goddess Yeo. For both of them to show up now, something big will happen in the Nine Heavens very soon.
As murmurs of concern spread among the spectators, the Dragon Ancestor finally spoke, his tone calm but laced with biting sarcasm.
Are you upset we didn't include you? Feeling left out?
He paused, his gaze unflinching.
Well, maybe that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't spent those days hounding Senior Sister Yeo like some lovesick, perverted maniac.
The Great One trembled, his eyes flaring with rage.
Do not mock my feelings for her.
He roared.
I am not mocking you. I am merely reminding you why Senior Sister Yeo despised you and why she ultimately chose to keep you out of our group. And if you continue to chase after her like you did in the past, I doubt she'll be able to resist killing you. Ha ha ha. Kill me? Maybe she had that power in the past, but things are different now. I am stronger than her.
The Great One laughed. The Dragon Ancestor merely shook his head with a pitiful smile.
Oh, you ignorant one. Senior Sister Yeo's power is far more than you can fathom, and what you witnessed in the past was merely a fraction of her true power since neither you nor I was strong enough to make her fight seriously.
The Great One was left speechless, his eyes widening in disbelief. What she showed me was only a fraction of her true strength. Even for someone like him, such a thought was difficult to accept, nearly unfathomable. The Dragon Ancestor suddenly glanced down at his body, watching as it began to fade, his form slowly unraveling into fragments of light.
Looks like my time is running out,
he muttered, then lifted his gaze to meet the Great One's. Before the Great One could respond, the Dragon Ancestor's body vanished, as if he had never existed in the first place. The Great One continued to hover above the Dragon Spiral Mountain long after the Dragon Ancestor had faded, his expression unreadable as he lingered in silence, lost in deep thought. Eventually, the Great One clicked his tongue in annoyance, and without saying a word, he vanished from the skies above the Dragon Spiral Mountain, leaving behind only the weight of his presence and the silence that followed. The Holy Dragon Emperor could only stare at the sky in disbelief.
Looks like we're fated to continue serving Dragon Goddess Yeo,
he mumbled. 2010, the Dragon Ancestor's unexpected appearance. Shortly after the second incident, news of the events at the Dragon Spiral Mountain spread through the Nine Heavens like wildfire.
You will not believe what just happened at the Dragon Spiral Mountain. Aren't you a little late to the party? I heard about that literally a day after it happened several months ago. No. This is a new incident that just happened recently. This time, it was the Great One who attacked the Holy Dragon clan at the Dragon Spiral Mountain. Heavens. The Great One? You're lying. For dragons like them, that's even worse than offending the Celestial Emperor. After all, not even the Royal Dragon clan could utter a word about. I'm serious. Not only that, but the Dragon Ancestor, who was thought to have died long ago, also made an appearance. Though, he was in the form of an avatar, so something might have happened to his physical body. The Dragon Ancestor is back. We just received news of Dragon Goddess Yeo's return. What in heaven's name is happening in the Nine Heavens?
News of the Dragon Ancestor's appearance sent unprecedented shockwaves throughout the Nine Heavens, far greater than those caused by the mention of Dragon Goddess Yeo, primarily because his name carried even greater fame and influence. Unlike the Great One, who lived a selfish life, and Dragon Goddess Yeo, who lived a secluded one, the Dragon Ancestor was the only one who communicated with and offered assistance to the other dragon clans. To many dragon clans, he was regarded as their forefather, the true dragon of origin. Beyond that, the Dragon Ancestor had established his own lineage, one that continues to reign as the foremost dragon clan in all of the Nine Heavens. His influence was nothing short of unfathomable. Upon hearing of the dragon ancestor's return and his words to find him, even though they were meant for the Great One, the 10 royal dragon clans wasted no time, dispatching their armies across the 9 heavens in a relentless search for his whereabouts. Naturally, the Celestial Emperor became even more cautious when he received this news. Meanwhile, while the entire world was in an uproar, Yuan continued to spend his time with his own people, especially his partners, spending most of his time in the bedroom with them. A month passed since his meeting with Senior Bai. A familiar figure appeared at the super-perfect physique tempering sect. It was none other than Shi Meili.
Sister Meili.
Feng Yuxiang was very happy to see her.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry it took this long for me to come here. I had to travel the 7th heaven without using any teleportation formations, which took a while.
She apologized.
Are you okay? I hear you were in the fight with Heaven's Mandate.
Yuan asked her. She nodded.
Thankfully. If it weren't for Yin and Yang, I would have definitely died that day.
She sighed.
What about Dongyi? Do you know where he's at?
He then asked.
We went our separate ways once I was close enough to you guys. Unfortunately, he didn't tell me anything before leaving. That's fine. He's a crafty and cautious person. He'll return to us soon.
With Shi Meili's return, the others began catching up with her.
By the way, did you hear? The Great One attacked the Dragon Spiral Mountain after the Celestial Emperor, and the Dragon Ancestor showed up to stop him.
Shi Meili revealed what she heard during her journey.
What? The Dragon Ancestor?
Yuan's eyes widened at this information.
Yes, but from what I heard, it was just his avatar, so he didn't appear in the flesh.
Yuan narrowed his eyes and said.
Either he was too far away, so he sent his avatar, or something happened to his physical body.
Shi Meili nodded and added.
He also told the Great One to find him. However, it could just be a stalling tactic. Maybe Yao knows something. I will ask her later.
Said Yuan.
Okay.
And shortly after Shi Meili's appearance, Kellen emerged from his seclusion. Though his cultivation remained the same, his aura had changed drastically since his seclusion.
Yuan. Let's fight again.
The first thing he did after coming out of seclusion was ask for a fight.
Sure.
Yuan immediately accepted, since he was also itching for a fight after spending so much time in the bedroom. Yuan and Kellen met up at the White Training Ground the following day. The others also showed up to spectate.
Although I lost to you last time, I have a good feeling the results will be different this time.
Kellen proudly declared as they stood a dozen meters away from each other. Yuan smiled and said,
You'd better have improved drastically after learning such a precious technique.
Kellen fell silent for a moment. Then, with a solemn expression, he said,
I know I shouldn't pry, but my curiosity won't let me stay quiet. Where in heaven's name did you obtain this technique, which was believed to be lost to time itself?
He quickly added,
Of course, you don't have to answer it. I just wanted to get the question off my chest.
Yuan then said,
I acquired it from the Nameless Emperor's tomb. The Nameless Emperor's tomb. To think such a precious treasure has been hiding there for this long. It really makes one wonder what else is hidden in that death trap.
Kellen had visited the Nameless Emperor's tomb more than once, but each venture yielded nothing of true value. After barely escaping with his life during his last expedition, he swore never to return, as the risks simply outweighed the rewards. However, upon learning that Yuan had acquired such a priceless technique from that very place, doubt crept into his conviction, and he began to reconsider.
Alright, enough yapping from me. Let me show you how far I've come with the Great Mammoth Body Refinement Technique.
Kellen's aura erupted as his body began to swell, muscles bulging and bones creaking, growing taller and bigger until he resembled that of a true giant. 2011 referral. Though his size paled in comparison to Kulis during his reign as the Giant Emperor, Kellen had reached a level of mastery that allowed him to amplify both his size and strength in just a few short months, something that required geniuses decades to achieve during the primordial era.
Come.
When Yuan beckoned him, Kellen charged like a sumo wrestler, each thunderous step shaking the ground beneath him. Just like before, Yuan met him head-on, unarmed and relying solely on his body. Wanting to test the limit of his new technique, Kellen only used his physique and nothing else. He figured he would be able to rival Yuan with his new technique somehow. Unfortunately for him, it didn't take long for Kellen to return to reality. Fuck, it's only been a few months, but his physique has gotten even stronger. Kellen quickly realized that he wasn't the only one who had grown stronger during the last few months. Of course, Yuan didn't do any real training, and the only exercise he did was in the bedroom with his partners and a few light spars with the others. However, his soul and body were still in the process of merging, so he was constantly getting stronger without needing to do anything, much like Feng Yuxiang's situation. Yuan smiled and said,
You may have learned a new technique, but you still haven't learned your lesson. What? What lesson?
Kellen frowned.
To never underestimate me.
Yuan laughed out loud as he began pushing Kellen back, despite the difference in their size.
Also, have you already forgotten how you acquired the technique?
A profound smile appeared on Yuan's face as his body suddenly began growing, quickly reaching Kellen's size.
Why you?
Though he knew he shouldn't be surprised. After all, he had learned the technique from Yuan. Kellen still couldn't help but be flabbergasted after seeing Yuan use the great mammoth body refinement technique. However, Yuan didn't remain in his giant form for long and said,
Though I can use the technique, I don't like increasing my size to make myself an easier target, and it hinders my mobility, too.
Of course, the biggest reason why Yuan stopped using the great mammoth body refinement technique was simply because he didn't need it.
What's wrong? Are you done already?
Yuan asked when Kellen stopped moving and stood still like an iron statue.
As you wish.
Kellen shouted before he resumed his assault. Since he couldn't defeat Yuan with the great mammoth body refinement technique alone, he began using his martial techniques. Eventually, he started using his cultivation and immortal chi. Yet, the results remained the same, and Yuan continued to push him back. However, despite how badly he was still losing to Yuan, Kellen refused to use celestial chi. It was the one thing he swore he wouldn't use unless Yuan could use celestial chi, as it would be too unfair. Their sparring lasted for nearly an entire week until Kellen was forced to stop because he received a certain message.
Okay, let's stop here.
Kellen suddenly said,
Senior Bai has contacted me, saying that your referral is ready, whatever that means. I was also summoned by Celestial Overlord Su. Oh, I'm going to train at the Holy Sword Temple.
Yuan explained.
Did you just say the Holy Sword Temple? But you're still immortal. So what? One sword understanding has nothing to do with their cultivation. Theoretically, a mortal can use Supreme Sword Aura. Yeah, there's no way.
Kellen shook his head.
You may be a monster, but even you cannot learn Supreme Sword Aura at your age. Wanna bet?
Yuan said with a smile.
Ugh.
Kellen instantly hesitated despite his earlier confidence.
No. I'm fine. What a pity. I was going to bet another lost technique compatible with your giant bloodline. What?
Kellen exclaimed.
Is that true? It doesn't matter anymore since you don't want to bet. I'll bet.
Kellen hastily changed his mind. He continued.
What do you want? If that technique is as valuable as the Great Mammoth Body Refinement Technique, I don't think I have anything I can use to bet. If I win, you'll let me take a look at your treasury and pick any one treasure I want. How about it? Are you sure? I may own a sect, but my treasury is quite lackluster. You will definitely be disappointed.
He said.
That's up for me to decide. All right. If that's what you want, don't complain afterward, not that you'll win. Also, I'll give you 100 years to train at the Holy Sword Temple.
Yuan raised his eyebrows.
100 years? You're being too generous. You might as well give me the treasure now.
Kellen frowned and said.
Then 10 years. You have 10 years to learn Supreme Sword Aura. Sure.
Yuan nodded. Kellen extended his hand and said.
Let's shake on it.
After shaking on it, they left the training grounds and made their way to the myriad of techniques. The others stayed back so they wouldn't end up crowding the place. When they arrived at the myriad of techniques, it wasn't just Senior Bai present, but Su Jiechi as well.
It's been a while, Sister Su.
However, Su Jiechi didn't respond. She simply stared at him with wide eyes, frozen in place. Although she had long believed Yuan to be the reincarnation of the Celestial Overlord's founder, seeing him fully grown left her breathless, and her memories of the founder were forcefully resurfaced. However, she quickly snapped out of it and said,
Sorry, but you look just like the Celestial Overlord's founder. If I had seen you outside, would have definitely mistaken you for him.
She swiftly reached into her spatial ring and retrieved a crimson, sword-shaped badge, its surface etched with ancient symbols. Holding it with both hands, she offered it to him.
This is your referral.
She said.
Present it to the masters of the Holy Sword Temple, and they will allow you to enter. Thank you.
Yuan accepted the badge and inspected it with interest. 2012 Grand Sword Crater.
When will you head to the Holy Sword Temple?
Su Jiechi asked Yuan shortly after giving him the sword-shaped badge.
I'll have to figure out how to get there first.
He said. Though he'd been to the Holy Sword Temple before, as Tian Xian, he couldn't recall how to get there.
Only the Holy Sword Clan, who owns the place, can bring you to the Holy Sword Temple.
Su Jiechi explained.
So I have to contact the Holy Sword Clan, huh? Where do I find them? While their main headquarters is in the 9th heaven, they also have a branch in the 7th and 8th heaven. You can find them at the Grand Sword Crater. The Grand Sword Crater, right? I'll go find them as soon as possible. Good luck. The Holy Sword Clan is known for being eccentric, so try not to cause any trouble. They're also a top 20 faction with the most sword masters in the world.
Said Senior Bai.
No promises.
Yuan said with a playful smile. Yuan left shortly after, leaving Kellen behind. Once Yuan was gone, Su Jiechi turned her attention to Kellen.
Now then. Commander Kellen. Why yes.
Kellen subconsciously straightened his back after being called.
I'm pretty sure I instructed you to notify me immediately when Yuan returns. Yet, you ignored my order and went straight to seclusion after his return. What do you have to say about that?
She narrowed her gaze at him. Kellen lowered his head and apologized.
I'm sorry. I got too excited when he gave me a technique. A technique?
Senior Bai and Su Jiechi raised their eyebrows. Kellen was extremely picky when it came to learning new techniques, so it was pretty surprising to hear that he'd gotten so excited about a technique that he forgot about his mission. Though they were intrigued by the technique, they didn't force Kellen to reveal it since that was his private business with Yuan.
I'll let you go with a warning this time.
Su Jiechi said.
Thank you, Celestial Overlord.
After returning to the sect, Yuan explained the situation to the others.
So you'll be leaving again soon, huh?
Chu Liuxiang sighed. Though she knew he would eventually leave again, it didn't make her feel better when that time finally arrived.
I won't be leaving immediately. I promised Yuro that I'd let her know before I leave, so I'll stay here until our next meeting.
Said Yuan. Thus, Yuan spent his remaining time in the sect with them until it was time for his meeting with Yuro. At the myriad of techniques, Yuan announced his next destination to Yuro and the others at the end of their meeting.
How long do you think you'll be gone this time?
Yuro asked.
It's hard to say, but it'll definitely be at least a few years. I see.
Yuro lowered her head for a moment, but she quickly raised her head again and spoke with a calm smile.
Be safe, brother. The same goes for you.
Yuro went to embrace him the next moment.
See you later.
After leaving the myriad of techniques, Yuan immediately began preparing to head to the Holy Sword Temple.
Since I cannot enter your Dantian like the others, I'll stay here and train with the others.
She merely said to Yuan before he left. Yuan nodded. After saying his goodbyes with the others, Yuan left the super-perfect physique-tempering sect and made his way toward the Grand Sword Crater. Unfortunately, there was no teleportation device near his destination, so he could only teleport to the nearest place and travel from there. After emerging from the teleportation device, Yuan wasted no time and used Feng Yuxiang's flying treasure to travel. 3 months later, Yuan arrived at his destination.
This is the Grand Sword Crater.
Feng Yuxiang murmured, her voice filled with awe as her gaze swept across the horizon. True to its name, the Grand Sword Crater was a monumental sight, a single flawless gash carved into the land, stretching thousands of miles in length and plunging deep into the earth like a wound left by a heavenly blade. Though the landscape resembled the aftermath of a cataclysmic battle, the vast fissure was far from abandoned, with countless sword masters moving busily around and within its depths. Legend has it that this colossal fissure was carved by a sword emperor with a single strike. Now, sword masters from across the world gather here, hoping to glean insight from the remnants of his might and deepen their own understanding of the sword. Of course, not every sword master came here in pursuit of insight. In truth, the majority sought to attract the attention of the Holy Sword Clan, who frequented the crater in search of talented sword masters to recruit for their faction. To draw the attention of the Holy Sword Clan, many sword masters would periodically release their sword aura, feigning moments of insight, while others openly practiced their sword techniques in hopes of being noticed.
What a bunch of weirdos.
Feng Yuxiang remarked when she saw the odd scene before her. Sometime later, Yuan began wandering the Grand Sword Crater in search of the Holy Sword Clan.
White and golden robes.
Yuan occasionally muttered to himself as he used divine sense to quickly scout the area without stopping. Several days later, Yuan came to a stop when he finally found someone who looked to be from the Holy Sword Clan. He focused his divine sense on a bald old man clad in elegant white and gold robes adorned with intricate sword engravings. The old man was surrounded by sword masters, yet his gaze was fixed on a lone youth quietly cultivating before him, exuding a decent amount of enhanced sword aura.
Not bad at all.
The old man nodded in acknowledgement. Seeing this, envy flickered in the eyes of the surrounding sword masters, each secretly wishing it was their sword aura that had captured the old man's attention.